I'd slightly moved away from the carp, and my ambition was to catch a double figure tench. The complex of lakes I was fishing was in Irchester, in Cambridge, and it comprised of 4 different lakes. 3 of these lakes were predominantly carp, and 1 was slightly mixed with tench and carp. So obviously I targeted the tench lake. The approach that I used on this particular venue was similar to carp tactics, similar to what I would do if I was carp fishing, but I scaled everything right the way back. Basically small hooks, lighter hook links, lightly baiting as well. I didn't go in with the heavier baiting approach, but what I did do on this particular venue, I upped the dosage of the way I flavour my pop-ups. In other words, basically what I did here, I intensified the goo when I was using it, because I just thought it would be more of an instant attractor than fishing just bland particle or bland boilies. Again, I fished short range, very, very simple tactics, and it actually paid off. And the other thing that was quite amusing as well is that this particular tench came on a big moon. And again, obviously from the previous video we did, you know, we spoke about, we did speak about the moon. And this was a funny sort of thing. It was the same thing. It was a big moon, and I just knew that I was going to catch one of these fish on this big moon, and it actually did come as well. I mean, the trouble is with carp anglers is what they do. They catch these fish and they just throw them back. They can't appreciate, they just cannot appreciate, it's just a quality fish. Any type of fish, whether it's a big bream or a big tench, you've got to appreciate. And the problem with the modern day carp angler is that they don't. They just disregard these fish. And that to me, it's just taking it away from fishing. The quality of the water these days, the quality of the baits that are going in, you know what I mean? The quality of the fish that are being stocked into these waters, it's phenomenal. I mean, you going back 20 years, and, you know, you was hard pressed. You know, it was something that you read on the front of the Angling Times. If someone was to catch a 30-pound carp or a 40-pound carp, never mind a 10-pound tench. Now it just seems to be, it's one a chuck sort of thing. But to catch a fish like that, and it is a specimen fish, and you've got to be, I just think the younger generation just don't appreciate it as the older generation do. When I speak to guys who are sort of like my age and like-minded, you know, they can appreciate these quality fish. The modern day angler just doesn't, you know, it's more, I want to be on Instagram, or I want to be doing this on YouTube, or whatever you want to call it. So to me, it just takes the art of fishing away. Going back to the beginning, sorry, the reason I went on the big lake is because the actual venue had a big flood that year, like a lot of venues in that area. They'd all had a lot of flood water had come in. So people weren't too sure where the fish were, whether they'd gone into different lakes, because there is 4 on that complex. So when I'd heard that this guy had all these fish, I thought, well, I'll have some of this. So I did. I jumped straight in the swim. I lasted to no avail, didn't catch anything. And I thought, right, I'll go on the tench lake. And I actually went on the tench lake, set up, I actually seen 3 carp. And I thought, I don't like this. I'm sat there waiting for the tench to start showing, all suited and booted. And I see 3 carp, and I thought, this isn't a good sign. It looks like I'm going to end up catching a carp. Anyway, early hours at morning, I don't know, 4 or 5 o'clock, something like that. It was quite late. Again, big moon. Got this thing about these big moons, you know what I mean? I just knew I thought something's going to happen there. Anyway, got a right funny bite, real funny bite it was. I thought, what on earth is this? I thought, there's no bream in it. I thought, well, it must be a small tench. So I picked the rod up, because it was a bit of a drop back sort of bite. Picked the rod up, pulled into the fish, tip went right over for carp. Here we go. Same old, you know, because I have caught quite a few carp out of this lake. Anyway, gets it in, just sees it, just gets a look at it, just didn't move, like his head just popped up, and I thought, yeah, definitely a carp. Next minute, whips the net under it, just pulls it in, and I see, obviously, you could see the olive green. I thought, oh, it's a tench, this. Parts the mesh, I thought, this is it. Here's me 10. Here's me 10 pounder. I thought I'll be straight on the phone to Ian in the morning. I've got me 10 pound tench. Anyway, unfortunately, I think it went about 9.4, 9.5 it was. Mega quality fish, beautiful, stunning fish, absolutely mega. Slung it up, did the shots in the morning. With that then, carried on fishing. And the biggest problem I had with this place is that you keep catching the carp. I had a mega 30 pound common, beautiful fish, absolutely jet black, stunning fish it was. Totally out the blue. Had a chat with Mark, who runs the syndicate, and he said, never seen this big fish before, which again, I was quite pleased about, but not the intended quarry. After that, I put the tench fishing to bed because I went another 2 times after that, didn't even have a bite, didn't get a look in, and I thought, it's time I started fishing for the carp. Anyway, gets down there this particular day, looking round. It's not a busy place, not a busy syndicate at all. It's a beautiful, absolutely beautiful place. The syndicate members all keep themselves to themselves, so it suits me. You know what I mean? You don't have to interact too much with people. And the beautiful thing about it, you've got, a lot of the time, you've got the complex to yourself, or these very, very few anglers, because they're all scattered around 3 or 4 different lakes, which is great, you know what I mean? And they're always willing to come down if you need some pictures or whatever you need doing. If you don't want to fancy doing them yourself, they'll all come down, give you a lift. So on that respect, it's a beautiful place, lovely and quiet, lovely and peaceful. It's got some mega, mega quality fish in it as well. Really, really nice fish. Anyway, I had a look round, wandered around, spoke to a couple of people who I know. Started on the back of the lake. Wind was actually pushing off me back, you know, which is in the summer, really, you want to be, as we all know, we want to be fishing into the wind, don't we? But on this particular trip, there was a lot of weed. There was a lot of weed in the margins. And to be fair, Paul, who does run the syndicate, he doesn't like you fishing over the weed. He wants you to fish in front of the weed, which again is all common sense. I mean, at the end of the day, the bloke wants his fish looking after, and I don't blame any fishery manager for that at all. I really don't. You know, I think it's a good policy to have. So basically, what I started off in peg 23, and I fished just at the front of the weed. I had a fish just short of a couple of ounces, just short of 38. An absolutely mega, mega stunning fish it was. Beautiful fish. And the interesting thing on this one was I'd had some new goos, what Ian had given me. I'd had these particular baits soaking in this fruit de mer for probably about 6 weeks, something like that. And they were just starting to pull right through the bait. So I knew they were good. Put it out. Again, real funny take it was. You know, up and down, up and down, up and down. And again, I thought, nuisance fish this. So I picked the rod up, took full battle curve. 20 minutes later, because they do fight, because the condition of these fish is immense. They're absolutely magnificent fish. Anyway, like I say, just under 38. So I was really happy, I was really pleased with that. It was one of my first trips. I was dead chuffed with it. Anyway, I'm sat there and I get a phone call off another lad who I know, and he was fishing up in peg 8. Roger was there. And he said, where are you? So I said, I'm in 23. He said, I've heard you've had a big 30. So I said, yeah. I said, stunning fish. I said, really chuffed. I said, session's made, like, you know. And he went, well, you need to pack up. He said, and get over to the other side. I said, it's right opposite. He said, yeah, you need to. He said, you need to pack up and get on the other side. He said, get over here. He says, it's going to fish. He said, you're going to have westerlies blowing in. He said, it's going to be, the conditions are bang on. I said, oh, I don't really fancy it. He said, I'm telling you, Pete, get yourself over here. So I thought, all right then. Right. With that, packed up. It was late on. Packed up. Shot round the other side. And there is a procedure that you have to undergo if you're moving swims. So obviously followed the procedure. Got into peg 6 set up. Everything went a bit pear-shaped. You know what I mean? Because it was like getting on as well late at night. Didn't have anything during the night. Reset everything back up the following morning. I thought, well, I've had a good fish. I thought, I'm quite happy with what I've caught. got my rods back out. Anyway, feeling sorry for myself, sulking, sat on my bed chair. Next minute, bang, away he goes. Anyway, jumps up, and man, it was just carnage. It was just unbelievable. I could not believe what was actually taking place. It was just like, first fish, bang, gets it in the landing net. Second fish, bang, gets that in the landing net. I thought, what do I do now? Next minute, all the rods going. So I'm like a one-arm paper hanger here. Got rods all over the place. I've got fish in 2 nets. Because one thing about the way they run the syndicate is that the way you set your stall out, you have to set your nets up in the water. You know, fish go in the net, fish is rested. Then you have a certain way, you weigh everything as well. That's another thing that you have to do. But again, well managed, well run. Everybody respects the rules. Fish are well taken care of. So I think by this time, by tea time, I was sort of like 4 fishing, up to 42, 43 pounds, something like that. Anyway, next day, same thing again. Bang, bang, bang. Then I get another take. And I thought, sooner or later, one of these has got to be, you know, one's got to be a big fish. Anyway, rod goes, playing this fish. Sees it. Well, this is a good fish, this. Gets it in the net. Then he rings Paul up. Paul comes down. So he looked, he said, how big? I said, it's a big 40, this. He went, no, it's not. I said, Paul, I'm telling you that, it's a big 40, this. He said, no, it's not. And I thought, what's he talking about here? No, it's not. I thought, it is. I thought, anyway, he knows these fish better than me. So he gets the fish out, gets it on the bank, picks it up. And I thought, definitely a big 40 in this. And the problem is with these fish, is that when you look at them and you guesstimate the weight, you always seem to be under. I don't know, you never seem to oversize them, which is obviously the fisherman's tail, innit? You know what I mean? It was this big. You know, you always, for some reason, you always underestimate them. I picked it on, I thought, it's a big 40, this. And I said, but no, it's not. I'll tell you now. Anyway, we banged it. We did the pictures, because you do the pictures first, then you weigh the fish up. So I weighed the fish off, and he said, I told you it wasn't a big 40. I said, it is. So I comes round. Anyway, it was bouncing round 53. You know what I mean? So it wasn't a 40, it was a 50, which, in all fairness, that is what I wanted to catch. That was my aim. On this particular session, which was a bit of a red letter day for me, I had fish ranging from, first fish was 37.14, second fish was a 29.14, third fish was a scraper 20 common, I had a 24, I had a 42.12, I had a 35.4, I had another scraper 20 common, and then I had a 52.9. My next trip, I went back down there. I had another 2 fish. One was a low 30 and one was a high 30. My next trip after that, I had a high 30, beautiful 37.8 it was. Magnificently scaled mirror, a beautiful fish. And I also had a mid 30 mirror as well. Next trip down, I had a scraper 20 common, and I had a stunning 44.5 pound mirror as well. All again on the new goose I was using at the time, which Ian had given me. What I wanted to do was just to try these goos out, just to see how they were working, because my big trip was coming up, and the big trip was I was going to Hungary, obviously to Euro Aqua, where I'd fished last year. Had a really, really good result with Dave Nimmo. And this year, didn't think we was going to replicate that for 1 minute. I really didn't think that we was going to replicate that. But if we could get anything near it, I'd be more than happy. And that was my next adventure, was to Hungary. We actually arrived at the lake, as we normally do on the Monday morning. It was a lovely morning, because the conditions, on the driving conditions going there, was horrendous. It did nothing but rain from the minute we left England to the minute we got to Hungary, but when we got there, it actually stopped. Bumped into a few lads who I know. He'd been fishing there that week. Unfortunately, it wasn't very productive at all. which I was disappointed at because I thought it was, beginning of October, fish were ready to start feeding up. There was only one swim really what produced. It did produce a big fish. It was a fish over 100 pound to one of the anglers in this trip, which was a fantastic result. Don't get me wrong. It was a brilliant result for the lads in Peg 1, but for the other lads it was a bit of a struggle. Jacqueline actually said to us at the time, "Go easy on the bait, lads, because it's not been fishing brilliantly." Now, when they say go easy on the bait in that place, well, that means don't be putting like 200 kilo in to start with. Start little and often. So the approach was, we arrived in the swim, we plumbed it as normal, and I thought, right, we'll just go with the little and often approach, which is what we did. So we didn't go daft to start with. Started off very lightly. I had one rod down to the right-hand side in the middle of the channel, which surprisingly enough, just as it got dark, again, real peculiar take, up and down, gets down to the rod, picks the rod up, starts playing this fish. Dave come down, says, "Is it a carp?" I said, "Yeah, it's definitely a carp." Anyway, starts boiling under the surface. I thought, yeah, it's a good fish and all. Anyway, that fish turned out to be a 54. So I thought, well, that's a great start. It's only like 9 o'clock at night. We could, it's looking really good. Anyway, with that, gets another take straight away. Unfortunately, that came adrift. That just came off. Why it came off, I don't know. Nothing during the night. In the morning, it just kicked off a little bit. We had 5 bites in the morning. Luckily for me, I took a fish of 51, 55, and I had a 67 as well. So I thought, well, yeah, this is more like it. Unfortunately, after that, it sort of like died a death. You know what I mean? The fishing just went right off. Dave had a couple. I'll let him tell that story. That's his story to tell. But it really did slow up that week. It was slow, and then basically it was just a grind. Long story short about this session is that it was a tough week. It was a tough week for all, to be fair. One of the lads, fortunately, he managed to catch a really good quality fish. He had an 85-pound common, which I was really pleased for him as well. Really, really pleased. He's a lovely bloke, thoroughly deserved. Didn't use the tactics we used. In fact, didn't use the tactics anybody used. Believe it or not, it was an unusual way he fished, but he had his own idea, and it paid off for him because it produced this big common for him. For myself, I think I had a total of 15 fish. It was 15 fish. Biggest was 67, 5 50s. Really, really quality fish, beautiful fish, magnificent condition. Anybody going to Euro Aqua, how can I explain it? It's just like a lake, a venue you'll never fish anywhere like it with the size of some of these fish. And I've heard down the grapevine that it's been fishing really, really well at the moment. There's been some mega fish coming out, some really big fish and all. So again, anybody who, is like-minded or wants to go and experience and see some of these big fish or catch some of these big fish, I would definitely recommend it, without a doubt. Definitely recommend it. Going back to the amount of fish I did actually catch, I had 15 fish. I had 17 bites in total. I had 15 fish. Caught more than anybody else did on the lake. Again, I put this down to using the new goose, without a doubt. They seem to work really well for me. Again, the fruit de mer was probably, that was the most productive one I was using at the time. But again, I do credit these for me catching more than what other people did. Be it, there was some really good anglers on that trip, but everybody struggled. It wasn't just me. It was everybody was struggling to catch. It was just a funny period in that month, and yet now, if you was to look at it now, I mean, everyone seems to be catching. But when we was fishing, it was a tough week. It was a tough week, and a lot of lads did struggle. But again, a few people. Well, the guy who actually caught the big common did tell me what he was actually doing. And if the truth was only known, he was doing something very similar to what I was doing, but I don't think he can disclose that. But basically, he was using the same. He wasn't using the goose I was particularly using, but he was definitely using the goose. I know he was, without a doubt. But that's his word against mine. For the rest of my season, I'm going to go back to the big lake, definitely. And then I'm going to go back to Urchester as well. And I'm going to try and catch me £10 tench, which I've got a funny feeling I will do. Also, I've got a trip to the River Trent with an old mate of mine, which I'm looking forward to. We're going to do a bit of barbel fishing. And also what I did yesterday, I booked a trip to France for a few days with Dave. Dave's found a little lake in France where we're gonna have a bit of an adventure too. I've not fished in France for a long time, so that'll be interesting. But it's got some real quality fish in it. It's not a very big lake, so I'm looking forward to that. And then I'm just going to carry on, probably Urchester and probably going back on the big lake. So that's going to be me. Oh, and I've got to have a new knee in December as well. I've got to slip that in sometime. I'm going for the full bionic, yeah, which I'll probably then will fish on the big lake because it's suited. You know, you can drive, you can drop your gear off, which to me will just be a lot easier. I don't feel as though I've struggled fishing wise anyway. Mobility wise, yeah, I definitely think I've struggled because this left leg of mine's really giving me some jip, and I've got to have a replacement knee in December. So whether I'm going to look forward to that or not, I don't know. But I have had my right leg done, and it is a lot stronger and it's a lot better for it. So I'm hoping that that's going to be the good side of things, is that I'm going to get my leg sorted out. But fishing wise, struggling. I don't feel as though I've struggled fishing wise. I feel as though up to now I've had a good year. I've had some good trips. I've had some magnificent fish, without a doubt. I've had some mega fish. I achieved what I wanted to achieve, and I'm really pleased about that. And the syndicates I'm fishing, fantastic. I can't fault either of them. The two I'm in at the moment, I think they're well run, well managed, a pleasure to fish. My trips abroad again. Yeah, the Hungary trip was. It wasn't a struggle. Obviously, it wasn't as good as what it was last time. But in saying that, it was still a good trip. I still enjoyed myself. I still caught some beautiful fish. Fantastic place to fish. Hospitality, unbelievable, second to none. People I fished with on the trip, brilliant, really nice group of guys. Can't fault anybody. So no, I feel as though up to now I've had a good season, and I'm really pleased where I'm at the moment, because I don't fish full time. Might sound like it on this video, but I don't fish full time, as you know. Mainly I'm stuck to weekends and one thing and another, but I'm not a full time angler. I have got a proper job, as I call it, at the end of the day. But no, I feel as though I've been very privileged and I've had a fantastic year. I'm really pleased up to now, and let's hope it's going to get better.